Assad, me and G have been discussing over the past, month, actually longer than that, over the division between Sunni and Shia and Christian and secular in that region. That is over exaggerated through, media propaganda in the West and over there. The question is, how exaggerated is it, and how what is the truth on the ground right now? Laith, I know you and I have addressed this topic before in a previous episode, but tell me what the media is showing, and tell me what in contrast is happening on the ground in that whole region.
Well, obviously, there was surveys done of the Lebanese population just before the return of this phase of the war, and it showed this was right after al-Julani Wahabi death squads took over Damascus, and they went on a rampage attacking minorities in the country. So this survey showed that the vast majority of the Lebanese population overall is with the resistance and against the resistance, giving up its weapons. And even in the most propagandized sector of the population in Lebanon, meaning the Maronite population that a lot of the Gulf spends hundreds of millions of dollars try to brainwash, even in that population, there was a higher percentage of people supporting Hezbollah retaining its weapons than those who are asking for them to drop their weapons. So what we know is that what has happened since October 7th is the reality that we are all seeing with our own eyes and hearing and living is so clear that no matter how much propaganda and money is being put into the propaganda of the imperialists and the Zionists, it is not achieving its goals. In fact, since October 7th, I think the imperialists and the Zionists have lost hundreds of years of accumulated propaganda effects within the global consciousness, not only, let's say, in the Lebanese population here. And, and it's going to take multiple generations to erase the memory that we're all living right now, to be able to be effective again in propagandizing the populations like here in Lebanon. And there's just a few, yesterday, the Lebanese government, the Vichy regime here, governed by Nawaf Salam, which I like to call Nov Shalom, and President Aoun ordered the Lebanese army to abandon 3 villages, Christian villages that are near the Bint Shbeil area. One of them, multiple of them are historical sites that have very important significance to the spread of Christianity. And they pulled out the military, and we saw the villagers and the priests in those villages basically cursing the Lebanese military and the Lebanese government, talking about dying on their own land and refusing to leave. So you could see that whatever may have been successful in the 1970s or 80s to convince Lebanese Christian population that are, descendants of the original Christians that suffered under imperialist rule before Roman and other rule, to convince them that they are somehow, their fate is connected to the West or Israel. That is not working anymore, neither for the new generations nor those who lived throughout those periods and now can realize that their fate is and their future is tied to their compatriots in the region.
We got the numbers, we're gonna fight, so they can't fuck us. We got rights, and we want justice, so we're gonna fight. These young kids in American breadlines, billionaire criminals will never see bedtime. And they don't care who they hurt in the headlines. The fruits of our labor turning into their red wine. And they drunk off power, they begging us to go to war for them. They're cowards, it's poverty at work 70 hours. We lost civil rights with the towers. They can deny it, they keep lying. They got AI to keep on spying. They make billions when people die. They gon' fuck around and wake a sleeping giant. It's cash for artillery to keep troops on a block from Caracas to the Philippines. Fighting back with our neck on the line, but we putting their necks
يا عم بننزل، احنا بلدنا زيكم، لو مش زيكم هاليوم امي ما نعرفش من وين طريق ولا بنعرف اكل ولا شرب، يعني احنا شعب غزه صامت ليوم الدين. واقول للجيش الاسرائيلي ما تقدر على شعب غزه، شعب غزه قوتوا بالله، انت قوتكم بالسلاح احنا قوتنا بالله. ومعلمتنا قالت لليهود يا ما معلوش شيء، احنا العو منهم لما خشين عليهم بالسياسه زي هيك، خشين عليهم قوه احتراق عليهم ما قدروا لنا. احنا شعب عظيم بس نعمل كل بني ادم ويكون قسم الحور لانه محتل كذاب. هذا الصحابه اللي زيكم نزل وحماس نزلت، الاخوه كلها نزلت، كل العربيه ما حدش راد عليهم. للان توجهوا العصابات، الان وين غزه؟
What up, fam? Welcome to a Colonial Outcast People's Core collaborative episode. I'm Mark Wayne, co-founder of Colonial Outcast and the general propaganda for the Panther Party, which is comrade party to the Black Panther Party, who we serve under. So we're about 5 weeks into the most unpopular war in U.S. history, with this being the first war ever where the majority of Americans are consciously siding with the nations we're attacking. After 3 years of genocide in Gaza by the Zionist state, the planet has experienced a level of moral cohesion that is unprecedented. This, combined with the revelations coming out of the Epstein files, has set the stage for a level of global solidarity against a common enemy that we have never seen. Iran has reshifted the power dynamics through their strategic operations and messaging to the world. They have taken out just about every U.S. military base in that region, as well as decimating parts of Tel Aviv as the world cheers on. Hundreds of years of divide and conquer in West Asia by Western powers is all coming full circle to a head, as the world has sifted through the various psyops and the various operations that have been done to divide Sunni, Shia, secular, Christian in that whole region. The revelations that have been coming out through social media as a result of the genocide has prepared the world for all the psyops that are coming through now. Nonetheless, we have to do our due diligence in ensuring that this revolution that we are seeing in West Asia comes to full fruition. Sunni and Shia have been finding common ground more than ever before in hundreds of years of division. However, the West is going to be pulling out their tactics to continue the division. We're here to stop that. With us in front of you are true revolutionaries. Jedi Darwish. Jedi Darwish is the one I did an episode with over a year ago now to christen Bushnell Range in honor of Aaron Bushnell. And in doing so, he introduced me to Laith Marouf, head of Free Palestine TV, very good journalist on the ground, and true revolutionary himself. Jedi Darwish is American and Lebanese. He served as a U.S. Army veteran, former explosive ordnance disposal operations officer with the United Nations, founder of Radio Beirut. He's an activist, humanitarian, and a good friend. And Jedi is going to introduce, he's going to call everybody on this panel to have them introduce themselves so we know a little bit about the revolutionaries you see in front of you. Good to see you all here.
Right on. Thank you for the introduction, Mark. It's an honor and a privilege to be with this exceptional panel. And let's start by introducing everybody. We have Laith Marouf from Free Palestine TV. Laith, if you'd like to chime in and say hello, maybe say something about Free Palestine TV.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's great to get to know everybody on this panel. Free Palestine TV started after the beginning of Al-Aqsa flood. We were trying to create content in the English language that can challenge the propaganda machine of the empire and also be on the ground, not just commentary, and do field reporting and bring the image of the reality on the ground to the rest of the world. It's been now two and a half years since we launched, and people can find us on our website, freepalestine.video, and or by searching for us as Free Palestine TV on all the other social media platforms like YouTube, X, Telegram, Rumble, Substack, and what have you. We're everywhere. I hope people can follow us and donate. We're completely dependent on the viewers' donations.
Thank you, Laith. And we got the infamous Abu Ras from PNN. Welcome, Abu Ras. Tell us a little bit about PNN.
Thank you, Jedi. Thank you, Mark. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Laith, Assad. I keep wanting to say Assad, but yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's an honor, privilege. PNN, we're collective of independent artists. You know, we do independent journalism. We ask, what's your stance on Palestine, America first, Israel first? Sometimes Jedi Darwish, it gets a little spicy. You might kick a Zio in the teeth if they get a little spicy. You might see Esed in the background doing some, but anyhow, that's what we do. So thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Absolutely welcome.
Can you say the famous catch line about making certain people uncomfortable?
Yeah, so
can you say that?
We're here. We're artists comforting the disturbed and disturbing the comfortable. That's our motto or whatever.
Ramses is the bully of bullies.
Yeah.
His goal is to bully the bullies. That's why I like his style. We got to get these guys in the run. We got to stop being defensive and start being aggressive.
My name is Soha Yassin. I'm from Jnoub Lebanon, from a village called Sultaniya. I am a guerrilla storyteller. My podcast is called The Safe House Travel Diary, where I immerse myself in hip-hop movements in misunderstood places, and specifically focusing my first season on Lebanon. Besides that, I'm the founder of Diaspora People's Place, a nonprofit organization that was founded after October 7th, 2023, intended to strengthen diaspora communities and build solidarity amongst the diaspora.
You guys, my name is Esed Shalhoub. I'm from Habibi House
Welcome,
Podcast.
Asad.
I also have an initiative called Mina Creator Club, which deals with this topic very heavily that we're about to discuss. I personally am from a mixed cultural background. My mom is Muslim, my dad is Christian. I'm Lebanese, 100%. I'm from Shibah, from the Jnoub as well. And my dad is from Douma. So definitely totally different parts of the spectrum of Lebanon, but it makes it so beautiful that I'm a product of that. My mom's parents are Sunni Shia. My dad's parents are Maronite Greek Orthodox. So again, I'm a product of all the sectarianism that's happening in Lebanon. So I feel like I have a unique perspective on this topic. I personally was awakened to the Western imperialism, where I had this dissonance that in 2006, where I was a victim of the 2006 war in Lebanon, where as an American citizen, I was bombed by American bombs. And then I saw the propaganda firsthand between what was the news in Lebanon versus the news in the US. And I was 13 years old at the time. So I've kind of been on a journey trying to speak out against the imperial machine since then, and it's all the past 3 years has accelerated all that. So appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Assad. Yeah, I'm lucky to have you live nearby me.
Finally,
so we can
have
operate together. Sorry, there's a delay, Jedi. You got a 4-second delay. I've already clocked it.
Okay, keep that in mind. We have Anthony Sargon, also from Beirut, live. Tell us about yourself,
everyone.
Anthony.
Thank you, Jedi. Yeah, so I'm a Beirut-based YouTube live streamer. I host a podcast. I host a show called Do Not Worry. It usually used to cover fun little events about Lebanon. We used to react to cringe creators, make fun of social media people. And then a couple years ago, once the genocide started in Gaza, it was kind of hard to talk about silly things and focus on the sillier side of things. So the show started to take a much heavier turn with politics and just covering news, essentially. I'm not a geopolitical expert or anything like that. I've worked in television for most of my life. I'm like a big comic book collector and stuff like that. But it's I just kind of wanted to use my platform to kind of talk about what life is like in Lebanon day to day, as from like a Christian perspective. I'm not religious, but just to give people, because people tend to think sometimes as Lebanese people as a monolith or something, when we're very diverse. There's a lot of different sects in the way people think. So, and over the past couple of years, I've been lucky enough to be able to get an international audience that has discovered the podcast and has discovered the show through our various beefs with other pro-Zionist podcasts, which has helped kind of help us find another audience. So I now kind of, I'm taking advantage of that to kind of try to share the story of Lebanon, what's happening, because mainstream media is not covering what's happening in Lebanon. They're covering the Iran war very heavily. What's happening in Lebanon, the theft of the land in the south, is completely being ignored. And there's a lot of awesome people on this panel that have been doing amazing work covering it. So Very happy to be with everyone here. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, whatever we can do to raise awareness about what's happening in Lebanon, I'm happy to do it. Thank you for having me here.
All right. I think that's everybody's introduced. Thank you for joining us, Anthony. Where do we start? Goddamn. Well, we got, like I said, some unprecedented things happening in West Asia. The empire is on the run. Its fragility is showing, and their psyops are failing stateside. The big question here is, are the psyops succeeding over there? We've seen, like as me and Gia have talked about, a heavy launch of division tactics being specifically targeted towards the Sunni and Shia. We have Sunni and Shia here on this panel, and we need to address it and show the world that no, this is a desperate attempt to divide. And I think the unity is going full force, and there's no way of stopping it. But let's just make it even, I guess. Let's crank the acceleration on this train of solidarity going forward against the empire and against the Zionist state. So let's get an update. Where are we at right now? It is 9:20 a.m. PST. There's obviously been some action that's happened since I was sleeping. So what are we looking at, Anthony, so far, or anybody?
It's 7:20 p.m. right here in Beirut. Yeah, I mean, conditions are pretty bad. The south is almost southern Lebanon has been completely almost annexed from the rest of the country. From what I understand, there's one bridge left connecting Tyre to the north. There's estimated over 1 million people displaced that have been displaced from the south and also from the southern suburb of Beirut, also known as Dahiyeh, or just Beirut. So there's a whole bunch of Lebanese people on the streets. They're sleeping by the seaside. They're sleeping in the streets. They're struggling to find some housing in some cases because of Israeli attempts to make people, to divide people and have them be wary of renting out apartments or something like that. There's a desperate need for aid. The media is not really covering the situation. There's over 1,300 confirmed dead, close to 3,000 injured, over 130 killed children. So, yeah, and I guess as Lebanese people, we feel pretty powerless because you see the Gaza playbook being, and I hate even calling it the Gaza playbook, but being adopted here. And nothing happened while the genocide was live streamed in 4K. So, like, what are the chances of anyone intervening and coming to help here? So, just as a Lebanese person here, it feels, and I live in a safe area, relatively like safe. Nowhere is really safe when you're dealing with Israel, but like I'm not in the south. I live in a Christian area where supposedly, I'm far away from all the true heartache that's happening. But it's hard not to be affected. Some people try to live their lives as if nothing's happening, but it's kind of hard not to be affected by what's happening and wanting to do whatever you can to help. But yeah, things aren't looking great over here, Mark.
Yeah. Laith, what have you seen so far? I've there's a few videos of you on the ground.
The Zionist plan is to try to annex South Lebanon and to depopulate it, ethnically cleanse it. But these are delusions, okay, in the mind of a supremacist cult that doesn't have, attachment between their delusions and the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground is the Zionist military invading forces are facing a worse defeat than even the 66-day war in 2024. It's now 30 somewhat days since the beginning of operations in the south, and they haven't been able to capture any ground. Just this morning, around dawn, they were ambushed around the Naqoura area, right on the coast, and around Shema, where the tomb of Saint Peter is. And of course, in the area of Ainata, where Jeddah is from, and just south of Sultaniyeh, where Suha is from, they have suffered one of their worst ambushes with tens of tanks and APCs destroyed. And even in where Assad's mother is from Shaba, right? So Shaba is right on the foothills of the Mount Hermon, The Zionists are doing so bad in this mainly Sunni village where there is no Hezbollah resistance, where actually the resistance is the Jama'ah Islamiyah, the Islamic group, the Sunni resistance group. They have been defeated there to the point where the Zionists had to import Wahabi death squads from HTS, the red bandanas, the elite units of HTS, through the occupied Golan Heights and throw them on the front of Shab'a farms and Shab'a. And again, they were defeated one more time last night. There's even the Israeli military circling around Mount Hermon with the aid of HTS from within Syrian territories to try to invade the extreme southern part of the Beqa Valley from the area, north of Mount Hermon. And this is an area, again, that is Sunni, Durzi, and Christian. There's no Shia villages in that area. And again, they were repelled yesterday. So what we're seeing is that the Zionists are suffering huge defeats. I would say one other note that differentiates what's happening right now from the 66-day war is the absence of 24-hour drone and jet flights over Lebanon. I mean, during the 66-day war, the drones didn't leave the skies of Beirut at all. The Zionists have lost more than 200 advanced drones in Iran in the last month. And that is mainly the Hermes 900 and the equivalents of the MQ-9, sorry. So these are the command and control drones that control the smaller drones that have missiles and or the ones that are gathering the mass data information for the Zionist movements to match this data. So they have no access to data. This is according to their own admittance over the last 48 hours. The Zionists have shortages in use of drones and jets because of the war in Iran. And their land forces are thus having to depend on the human element in their advances into South Lebanon, which is making them even more vulnerable to the warriors of the resistance in the south.
Yeah, and this is what we're seeing come across on independent media stateside. To put it bluntly, the U.S. military is getting its ass whooped, and so is Israel's. And it was, I guess, one could say it's the hubris. It's the ego. When you're able to get away with genocide with impunity against an unarmed and mostly defenseless population in Gaza, it does have an effect on giving you an isolated worldview that you are the superpower and you have the ultimate, levers of destruction. But as we were seeing with Iran, it is proving that their power was very fragile. Now, addressing Hezbollah, there was this misconception that Hezbollah was essentially, it was impotent, in the past few months since the pager attacks. So there was this very clever tactic of Hezbollah reorganizing itself, staying quiet, and allowing the enemy to become more and more arrogant, and thus making the mistakes. And as we're seeing, they're getting pounded. So I'm going to play this video real quick that confirms that everything you're saying that is reaching the U.S. media side, and it's having a major effect on the U.S. population and our view of the situation over there as well.
Lebanon, Hezbollah has been attacking Israel hard today. According to Al-Manar Media, Hezbollah has taken out 21 Merkava tanks, 2 Israeli Humvees, and 2 Israeli bulldozers, and they have been sending missiles all over Israel, even one as far as Tel Aviv. Word is the impact was major. Hezbollah said they fired at the 401st Armored Brigade, the same brigade that shot 335 rounds into the car of the 6-year-old Hene Rajab in Gaza. Hene Rajab is getting her revenge today. Hezbollah has launched a record 82 operations today alone. They are launching ballistic and cluster missiles reaching as far as the Gaza border. The northern settlements of Israel are empty right now. Hezbollah is truly defending Lebanon from the occupiers. And speaking of the northern settlements, the mayor of one of the settlements in northern Israel was on camera today crying that Israel cannot defend his settlement, that 10,000 people have evacuated and they are psychologically destroyed. Cry me a river. I'm pretty sure he was not crying when this war started 3 weeks ago. I'm sure he was not crying for the people of Gaza when they were genocided. So he can cry all day, every day. Sky News reports that Lebanese health workers in Nabatea are now deliberately delaying their arrival at emergency scenes. Why? They are trying to avoid Israeli double-tech strikes, a pattern where second strike hits rescuers after the first one.
Okay, there's that. And then I saw another one. See if I can pull this up.
And just to add to that, over 40 medical emergency workers have been killed here in Lebanon by Israel since the
40?
start of over
Okay.
40, yeah.
3 UNIFIL members too.
And we would be remiss not to, shout out Fatima Ftouni and Ali Shaib and the other journalists who were murdered in cold blood in order to silence the truth of what is happening in Lebanon, which is that we are winning. And unfortunately, even amongst independent news, like credible news, you're hearing a lot of the same language around Gaza used around Lebanon, the Gazification of the south of Lebanon, the annexation of the south of Lebanon, where it's almost like as if it's a foregone conclusion that Israel is going to win. But the resistance has been strong. I think Laith can probably speak to this, with more accuracy. But sometimes I hear it's 70 Merkava tanks that have been destroyed. Sometimes I've heard it's 100 Merkava tanks. And despite Netanyahu every day saying, I've ordered the military to advance further into the south of Lebanon, like, have they?
No. And like Les said, it's a fantasy. It's all fantasy. It's catered around the Western supremacist viewpoint that is quickly crumbling, as this video is pointing out.
Getting beaten.
Yeah, I mean,
they're backed into a corner with no clear way out, and members of the Israeli ruling class are making this very clear. Recently, the IDF chief of staff at a cabinet meeting said he was raising 10 red flags before the IDF collapses into itself. Yair Lapid said that the government should stop its cowardice and draft all ultra-Orthodox Israelis who won't serve, and send the military police after deserters. They don't have enough people to fight this war. Hezbollah claims to have destroyed 100 Israeli Merkava tanks, out of a total of 1,300, and it's only 1 month into this war. Contrary to what we've been told for decades, the Israeli ruling class and military is not all powerful, just like the US isn't. Just 1 month into this war, we're seeing the US and Israel's military capabilities being crushed. People are rising up across the world, and we're going to see even more instability internationally and here in the US, which means there's going to be openings for revolutionary organizing. Lenin said that there are decades when nothing happens and weeks when decades happen. And right now, we are in weeks where decades happen.
Absolutely. We're in a week where decades are happening right now. The balance, like I said, the balance of power is completely shifting, and they're going to try to do everything and to hide it. As we've known, we've been told how many. It's been a few dozen American personnel have been killed. We know that's a lie. I believe at the start of this, Russia was reporting around 560 U.S. deaths. I think that was an underestimate. We know that one of the largest U.S. military hospitals outside of the U.S. that usually serves military dependents and military personnel in Stuttgart is now being cleared out. Entire departments are being cleared out, including the maternity ward, which tells me that they're receiving a lot of bodies. Possibly over 1,000 U.S. personnel have been killed. As you know, we've been lying about the true numbers, and we won't know the true numbers until probably years later when some document is released. But what this does is, like you said, Soha and Laith, you are painting a picture of victory by the resistance, and they're doing everything they can to hide that victory. This is both, I would say it's racial in nature too, because portraying that region as being unable to defend itself against conquest has always been a staple in Western media, including independent media. But we're seeing that reality crumble before our eyes to the point where the American public are cheering on the resistance. This is unprecedented. We've never seen this before in the history of mankind. And the question is, what do we do with it? And I wanted to run this by Ramsey. Ramsey, you have done a great job at propagandizing the American public by bullying the shit out of these coward Zionists and showing them what true cowards they are. It's great to see. It's cathartic to see. you on the attack with Zionists on our streets. They are pieces of shit. They need to leave American streets. But the way that you frame it is very much in the style of what speaks to Americans. There's no greater way of repelling bullies than being the bully to bullies. And I would just like to hear what your sentiments that you're hearing on the ground concerning Americans and their opinions of the whole region of what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's truly unprecedented. If you told me, I've been saying this since, the beginning. A couple years ago, Bill Zarian would be celebrating Sinwar and Hamas and Hezbollah. The real Americans would love them. It would be, unbelievable. So, but I think the lesson is, and it comes from Gaza, they always told us, tone it down. No, we condemn, but it's like this defensive posture when, like you say, Americanism or just all humans, they respond to taking the initiative. So Hamas took the initiative. So everybody said, oh, we condemn it. But what people say and what they feel is something else. So same sometimes with my tactics, obviously not to compare at all. People say, oh, no, that's not helping. But like you say, it actually connects with people more. Whereas your little PowerPoints, nobody's going to condemn it. Everybody says, oh, that's great, but nobody cares, So, but yeah, I mean, not that it was a big plan, but yeah, this is also what I tell people, because I've been saying F America, F white people, but this is from a place of love. At the end of the day, it's shock and awe tactics, but I've been doing this for a long time. Everybody says, no, you're not going to. I say, bro, I win them over more than you guys saying F America and F you guys. So, but again, you have to have a coherent message. It's not always just about, but the point is, it's like you were saying, we have to have our propaganda, whatever you want to call it. And it all flows from the resistance, so that's where it's coming from. Everybody needs to, find their angle to contribute. But yeah, I think just like you're saying, go on the offensive with the propaganda, stop responding, stop doing this defensive posture, just be pro-resist. It's like condemn Hamas. I love Hamas. What are you talking? Like, go, even if you don't, like, this is what I tell people, even if you don't know the facts, if you sense someone's pushing, just go the other way, and you can always apologize later. Oh, I didn't know this, that, but never fall into the trap of, I didn't, oh no, well, that's right, and I didn't, but what about the babies in Gaza, and I love Code Pink, but it's always, but what about the baby? They don't care. You didn't realize they don't care. They're happy about it. Like, so you have to adjust your posture. It's like, and people think I'm a very like all of us, we're reasonable people, but you can't be reasonable with people. So you have to then, like you say, out. If you want to do Hasbara, I'll out Hasbara you. Like, that's what I said. I said the Bebas twins are future terrorists. I got canceled by everybody. I'm saying if that's how we're playing, that's how we're playing. I don't give a damn, bro. Don't care. Like, I'll care when you care. You care first. But again, we retain our humanity, but it's a posture.
The way you put them on the spot with your America first or Israel first is what does it really, because you put them in a corner.
Yeah, it's a checkmate move. It's a checkmate move, and that's what we've been seeing come out of our activism, or a lot of checkmate moves that weren't previously explored. The comical question of do you condemn Hamas or do you condemn Hezbollah? I've gotten to this point where I've refined my answer to that. It's like, not only do I not condemn Hamas, I would trust Hamas with open heart surgery on my grandmother before I would trust a Zionist to give me a foot exam. It's at that point where, like, I've seen so much honor, I've seen so much bravery, and I've seen so much respect for human life coming out of those two groups that to condemn them would be to condemn anything that would come to the level of bravery and honor that we always, platform and we always put on a pedestal in, American mythology. So it's ridiculous. But Assad, you also have a finger on the pulse in American culture because you're near LA just like I am. What has been your perception on the evolution of the American public towards this whole situation?
Well, as you said, like, if we can't go fight ourselves, the second best resistance is the media war and the war of public opinion. I've said that multiple times, and I think we are winning it, or we have won it. There's no turning back. It's as you said in the intro, like with the Epstein files, America first, Israel first, the live stream genocide. History will vindicate the resistance. It always has. You've seen the Viet Cong. You've seen with Nelson Mandela as labeled as a terrorist for until 2008. Now he's revered as a hero. It's just a matter of time. Where the facade and the propaganda machine has finally failed, I believe. And I mean, they're just resorting to admitting it. Like, you saw with the two journalists in southern Lebanon, they literally admitted that they photoshopped the photo of him wearing a Hezbollah uniform. They just said it. Netanyahu is saying 100% we're doing the Greater Israel Project, while Zionists in America are calling something Greater Israel is anti-Semitic. Like there's so much dissonance, and they're shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over. That the American public, they think they're stupid, and I think for the most part we're reasonable and well educated enough to realize what's going on. I mean, even going as far as to see this Palestinian execution like policy that they codified actually legally in the Knesset, where it's been since Nazi Germany, like nobody in the history of the world since Nazi Germany has done a law where there's people are going to be executed based off of just where they're from. Meanwhile, we saw videos of Israeli and Zionist prisoners of war having they're celebrating their birthdays in the tunnels and different holidays. Meanwhile, a doctor that's been held in Israeli prison for a year might be executed just because he's a doctor from Palestine. So again, there's so much evidence out there of showing how this imperial machine is failing, and it's up to us. Like we have a duty in the diaspora to that we're not immediately within arm's reach, just like the Lebanese and the Palestinians on the ground over there. So they can't reach us as quickly. So we have the duty to fight back with the media narrative and the media war, as we're doing right now.
Yeah, if I can add to that, to our role in the diaspora, actually, the reason why I started Diaspora People's Place after October 7th is because, we were seeing a lot of fundraisers and things like that happening for Gaza, which was fantastic, but they were also a little bit cannibalistic towards our community, in the sense that like these gatherings would happen and everyone, the performers, the photographers, videographers, even the vendors that were involved, like were either working for free or donating, if they were selling anything, they were donating proceeds. So I found it important to create community spaces that served our community by, making sure that people were being paid and things like that. But that wasn't, the primary purpose. The primary purpose was because October 7th or October 8th, 2023, if you had Palestinian friends or whatever at that time, they were destroyed. Like they were emotional wrecks. And so it became so clear that like we needed to create spaces for a community to come together to create emotional support, but also to connect folks with like the on the ground activism that's happening in their neighborhoods, the type of activism that Jedi is involved with, and Asad and Mark as well, here in, the LA area. And through this work and engaging with like folks from the broader diaspora, and engaging in discourse, you start hearing a lot of these normalization talking points, right? A lot of the like, tiptoeing around Hamas issue, tiptoeing around the armed resistance issue, which, it really called for a need to educate our own community. So what we do at Diaspora People's Place is like we bring everyone together for these decolonized community gatherings. They're essentially, cultural festivals for all diaspora communities. We tend to draw, Arab Americans and American Muslims primarily. But like through these events, it becomes an opportunity for us to like really educate, folks, so that we have a unified positioning on things, a positioning that represents the sentiment from the ground. So when people talk about Lebanon, for example, we don't want them to be, saying talking points that actually contradict what the people who are living through the struggle are actually saying and what they're calling for us to convey and to support. So yeah, that's kind of like what we do with Diaspora People's Place. And that's how I approach it from, Essa does it from a communications and from that perspective. But I really, through Diaspora People's Place, we do it at the community engagement level.
And I just want to say that the event that you put on for Iftar was great. It was a great feeling of community that I haven't felt in a while. So I appreciate what you're doing, Soha. It's very needed, especially in, I guess, this lonely world of American consumerism and American isolation. The vibe that your events pull in is very healing, and we had such a diverse crowd there, people of different factions and sects going in. It was just great. So I appreciate what you're doing. And I think it is, I think this, in fact, this episode was a result of that. It was a result of one of your events you put on. And that's the importance of these types of physical events that you do, is that, yeah, we can have activism online on Instagram and things like that, but there's something about meeting community, like being physically there. It's a feeling of safety. It's a feeling of camaraderie that you just don't get anymore because we're so goddamn isolated from each other, so appreciate what you're doing. So
and if I may, before I have to go in like 10 minutes, I'm glad you brought that up, Mark, because Soha has another event coming up April 11th. It's called Nochella. I know she doesn't want to plug it herself.
Nochella.
Yeah,
so it's on Coachella weekend, and it is the anti-Coachella.
Yeah, and it's solidarity between Palestine, Lebanon, and the diaspora. And we're gonna have a live podcast session in front of a crowd there for Habibi House podcast. So I just wanted to let people know about that, and it's obviously a great fundraising opportunity. And yeah, so I just had to mention that quickly.
Appreciate you.
I can't wait to be there.
On the topic of fundraising. We should probably plug in these organizations that are helping people on the ground in Lebanon at the moment. Mark,
go ahead. Yeah, let's plug them.
So there'll be the QR codes here on. Yeah, we'll be putting the QR codes up here on the episode for people to donate to Al Baro Foundation, that is helping families in need in Beirut, and I believe Soha has some organizations to recommend, as well as Anthony, for direct support for people on the ground suffering and displaced in Lebanon.
I know that folks in the diaspora have to be cautious because of surveillance now to who we give to. So if you're looking for a registered 501c3 that is operating shelter in Beirut and providing essential needs, I recommend We Deserve Better Foundation. Half their team is based here in LA. I know them well. I also know their team in Lebanon quite well. They post daily updates on their Instagram. But I also want to call out a very, very important cause that is being neglected and is actually an existential issue, which is supporting the agricultural sector and farmers in Lebanon. Farmers are the front line of resistance. They often are the last to leave their land. They are the ones who do the ecological remediation as a result of ecocide. And Lebanon has proposed legislation, which for the time being has failed, but they've proposed legislation which would restrict essentially seed sovereignty. So you would only be able to use certain kinds of seeds, and it becomes a punishable crime for you to plant heirloom seeds, even if they're for private use. This has engendered famine all over the world. And we've seen this play out in Gaza, where folks are not allowed to farm anything besides tulips and strawberries, which don't feed people. So they're called Agri Movement LB. They really need our support to protect seed sovereignty in Lebanon.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
their website is agrimovement.org. They're a great team of people, very dedicated from the South. I worked on Free Palestine TV, worked with them. We did multiple documentaries about the amazing work that they're doing with the farmers and preserving the heirloom seeds and fighting the pollution by the Zionist attacks on the South in Lebanon. Unfortunately, of course, right now, much of the South is a no-go zone for the farmers and for organizations that are trying to help with their work. Yeah, agrimovement.org is a great resource.
And Anthony does his live streams with charities, so you should definitely talk about that, Anthony.
Yeah, we recently did a 2-day. I did 12 hours a day, like 24-hour total live streaming to raise money to help feed Lebanese people. We had a bunch of awesome guests on from all over the world calling in. We were able to raise $25,000. $20,000 is being pledged to Nation Station, that's a community kitchen that are preparing up to 5,000 meals a day to feed people lunch and dinner. And we're going to pledge $20,000 to them. We also have any money that we raise over that. So that first 5K is going to be donated to help feed displaced animals as well in Lebanon, because there's been a lot of that. A lot of animals have had to be displaced in the south. There's a lady called Diana Abadi who is taking care of 40 cats by herself. As soon as we get the money, we're going to go try to pay her a visit as well, try to help her as well. Also associations like Animals Lebanon, Beta Lebanon. And like I said, I'm working with Nation Station. You guys can try to find their information online if you'd like to donate. There's also an NGO called Jeyitne, which basically provides hygiene products for women, because that gets overlooked as well. There's a whole bunch of community kitchens and a lot of amazing initiatives that are taking place. And Nation Station, besides just providing meals, they also try to provide diapers, and they coordinate with other local activists to sort of deliver blankets or mattresses when needed, or provide extra funding. So yeah, the QR code is going to be there. You guys can donate, and we're going to be very transparent with where all the money is going. And yeah, we're going to try to hit sort of as many issues that, because people need food, they need bedding, they need blankets, they need pillows, they need pocket money, they need groceries, they need everything. So we can't do everything on our own, but we're trying to hit as many needs as we can. So yeah, I appreciate you guys.
No, I appreciate you. Appreciate all that you're doing.
Is there a chance we can get into the main meat of the conversation?
Yeah, thank you.
About the sectarianism.
Yes, let's.
Yeah,
I was just about to follow up with that. So, Assad, me and G have been discussing over the past, month, actually longer than that, over the division between Sunni and Shia and Christian and secular in that region. That is over exaggerated through media propaganda in the West and over there. The question is, how exaggerated is it, and how what is the truth on the ground right now? Laith, I know you and I have addressed this topic before in a previous episode, but tell me what the media is showing, and tell me what in contrast is happening on the ground in that whole region.
Well, obviously, there was surveys done of the Lebanese population just before the return of this phase of the war, and it showed this was right after al-Julani Wahabi death squads took over Damascus, and they went on a rampage attacking minorities in the country. So this survey showed that the vast majority of the Lebanese population overall is with the resistance and against the resistance, giving up its weapons. And even in the most propagandized sector of the population in Lebanon, meaning the Maronite population, that a lot of the Gulf spends hundreds of millions of dollars try to brainwash, even in that population, there was a higher number percentage of people supporting Hezbollah retaining its weapons than those who are asking for them to drop their weapons. So what we know is that what has happened since October 7th is the reality that we are all seeing with our own eyes and hearing and living is so clear that no matter how much propaganda and money is being put into the propaganda of the imperialists and the Zionists, it is not achieving its goals. In fact, since October 7th, I think the imperialists and the Zionists have lost hundreds of years of accumulated propaganda effects within the global consciousness, not only, let's say, in the Lebanese population here. And, and it's going to take multiple generations to erase the memory that we're all living right now, to be able to be effective again in propagandizing the populations like here in Lebanon. And there's just a few, yesterday, the Lebanese government, the Vichy regime here, governed by Nawaf Salam, which I like to call Nov Shalom, and President Aoun ordered the Lebanese army to abandon 3 villages, Christian villages that are near the Bint Shbeil area. One of them, multiple of them are historical sites that have very important significance to the spread of Christianity. And they pulled out the military, and we saw the villagers and the priests in those villages basically cursing the Lebanese military and the Lebanese government, talking about dying on their own land and refusing to leave. So you could see that whatever may have been successful in the 1970s or 80s to convince Lebanese Christian population that are, descendants of the original Christians that suffered under imperialist rule before Roman and other rule, to convince them that they are somehow, their fate is connected to the West or Israel. That is not working anymore, neither for the new generations nor those who lived throughout those periods and now can realize that their fate is and their future is tied to their compatriots in the region.
Now, Assad, you're a Christian. You're a Christian Lebanese, and you've been following the resistance activities, since the beginning of the genocide and even further back. What is your impression of how the Christian Lebanese community views this whole thing and views the gratitude on Hezbollah as being one of the only forms of protection that the Lebanese people have? Do you notice, what are the dynamics that you notice?
Here, like in the diaspora or on the ground in
Both.
Lebanon?
Both.
Well, I think it's closer than it's ever been to be what the diaspora thinks versus what the people on the ground think, because now we're seeing that it doesn't matter, the Bashir Ijmails and the betrayals and all this like backstabbing and all that stuff that's happened with the Maronite community and the Sabra Shatila massacre. All of these things that have happened within the Christian Lebanese, in the historical, basically the timeline of events that has happened with the Christian Lebanese. I've always kind of had a salty, because it's been hard to wrap my head around it. It's funny. I actually just recently found a picture of when my mom and dad were young and they had just first met. And actually it's my dad, who's the Christian Lebanese one, Maronite, wearing the kafiyeh with my mom, who's the Muslim one. So it's like, even back then, he didn't subscribe to that division tactic. So I think that's very poetic about where I'm coming from in this. And we're seeing it. They don't care who you are. They're talking about, they talk about the LGBT community. They talk about the Christian community. They talk about anybody who they thought was like safe, for example, from aggression. They are targeting them. They are bombing them. We're seeing Palestinian churches being erased. We're seeing Lebanese churches being erased. We're seeing Christians being spat on in occupied Palestine. So when you see this Christian Zionism facade in America, and then you see the regular Christian, they're like, wait, what's happening to Christians in occupied Palestine? So I think again there is definitely a convergence of pretty much people are agreeing, I think, more between Lebanon and Palestine and what's happening here in America, that it is a very historical divisive tactic to do this propaganda, and we're destroying it with our own propaganda as well.
Yeah, and we're doing a great job at it too. You being in this movement has been so invaluable, Assad, and you raising your voice, from the heart of LA, no less, is like, because LA is a cultural hub, isn't it? Like, it's such a cultural hub of American media, right? All types of cultures converge in Los Angeles. And
this is where Hollywood was the propaganda arm of the Zionist machine for decades. I'm in the belly of the beast. I mean, I even watched at the WGA where the scripts are written about Arabs and the propaganda that's written about Arabs. I was at the WGA watching the season finale of Mo from Netflix, and it was such a bittersweet moment, because it's like, I'm on one hand, I'm so angry at them for what they've done to us and how they've manufactured consent to do the things that they've done. But on the other hand, I saw the progress firsthand, where I was able to matchmake a Palestinian food vendor who made falafel tacos, just like in the movie, in the show, to give it to Mo. So like there is a change. Like no matter what, when somebody says, "Oh, I'm just one person, I can't do anything," that's bullshit. And I think that if everyone thought like that, then obviously nothing would get done. So if we all think that we individually can do something, that's powerful. So
absolutely. Yeah, and also I would say that for the longest time, ever since post 9/11 era, there's been an intimidation towards anybody from West Asia or anybody who's Muslim, and it's been, I guess, a trauma that exists within the minds of Muslims who are in the diaspora, that I can't poke my head up too high because I'm seen as a radical extremist, or I'm from a dangerous demographic. But since the genocide, we're now seeing who the real dangerous demographic is, and it's really flipped the script in many ways. It's taken the United States in this 180 of sentiments, where we now, when we hear of a potential, I guess, terrorist attack, quote unquote, what are we automatically going to with our minds? We're thinking false flag. Everybody's like, look for your nearest Israeli and see if they're smiling or dancing. That's the sentiments we have here on the ground. And that's quite miraculous when you really consider it, because that happened within a span of 2 years after almost 70 years of propaganda. 100%. We're talking about a reversal of that in 2 years. So it's quite extraordinary.
And everyone came out of the woodwork. Like, I moved to LA in 2019. I didn't have the community that I had. Even if I wanted to explore the Muslim side of me, I didn't have a masjid within 50 miles of my hometown in Florida. So like, it took October 2023 for people to actually say, okay, the gloves are off. We're out. We're proud of who we are. And then I really saw how big the community was, not only in LA, but OC and Southern California in general. And it was a great time to start connecting everybody to each other too. And we're finally like not scared. So I think there is a solid, I mean, as you said, 70 years was kind of erased in 2 years in a good way for us. So yeah, I'm really excited. Obviously the silver lining to all this tragedy is that we are closer than ever.
Assad, your story is quite amazing. Just from your parents' meeting, the conscious enlightenment of your father back then to actually see
if I can find the photo.
Yeah,
I'm gonna find the photo. Before I go, I'm gonna show the screen, the audience this photo, and then
that'd be great.
I gotta go.
Absolutely.
It's so incredible. I can't believe it took me 33 years to find it, but it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
It's symbolic. It really is. And you think about that. That was years ago, decades ago. Now, think how far advanced we are now in enlightenment in that region.
And they were both affected, and then they both left because of the 1982 aggressions, and they found each other in the States, and they created me. I'm trying to find this photo, but yeah, other than that, I mean, I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to say my piece. I hope we do this more often.
Me too. I apologize personally that we have not prioritized this mission early on at Colonial Outcasts, but we've been having meetings with the Black Panther Party and the Panther Party lately, and one thing that we are going to be focusing on, at least in the People's Corps, which the People's Corps is an extension of the Black Panther Party. Oh, beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful, man. Your face is like the perfect
combination of both.
Yeah, it is. I can't.
But he's
pick one out.
so he's the Christian. My mom's the Muslim, and I asked him. I said, "Do you remember that day? And why did you even wear the keffiyeh that day?" And he's like, "It was just something he did as a Christian Maronite Lebanese who actually had to like escape. I don't know. He had pressures for him to join the Lebanese forces and all this stuff. It again, crazy stories that when your uncles tell you, you're like, oh, I don't believe it. And then now it's like, okay, I believe it. I believe the crazy uncle stories now, because what we're experiencing now, they had to experience it without all the media attention. So they're being vindicated too. Our parents as well.
Absolutely.
So, but I appreciate the opportunity, and I do have to leave. So, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jedi. Thank you, Abu Ras, Anthony. Appreciate you, Saha, Laith. We should definitely do things more often, and hopefully see anybody that can go to Nochella, April 11th, to see us talk about this kind of stuff live. Thank you.
Thank you, Assad. Appreciate you, brother.
Bye.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye, dude. Just to add quickly to his point about sort of divisions on the ground with Lebanese people, there is going to be definitely a subset of like the most extreme Christian people that like to refer to Lebanese people as Phoenicians, not Lebanese, that love to distinguish between Mount Lebanon and Southern Lebanon, and they don't consider Lebanon as South Lebanon as part of Lebanon. But I mean, also Israel isn't sort of making that distinction when they're bombing the shit out of the South. They murdered a Christian dad and his son 2 days ago. And I believe the town of Dibit, and I'm not mentioning that as if they're more important than any Muslim victim. It's just to show that they don't care. Just today, I saw this video of an Israeli tank crushing a St. George statue in the town of Yarun, a Christian town, just completely crushing it. Again, they don't care if you're Christian. They murdered a priest about 3 weeks ago in a double tap attack when he was going in to help other victims. So when it comes to Israel, they want your land. They don't care if you're Druze, if you're Muslim, if you're Christian. When they want land, they want land. So I hope that more Lebanese Christians can understand that and understand that their Christianity is not a shield from the Zionist project. So, yeah, but it's getting better, I would say.
Anthony, you know what it reminds me of? The dynamic you just described about how you do have pockets of fanatical, brainwashed people. It reminds me of MAGA here. MAGA is shrinking. It's an endangered species. They're an endangered species of animal at this point, especially after the Epstein files release. But you still have your holdouts. You have your holdouts who are believing the propaganda, and they're cheering on ICE, right? Which is a terrorist occupation that's controlled by Israel. And they don't consider ICE an enemy until they start seeing, white people being, shot or kidnapped. And you're slowly seeing like that level of, I guess, the equal playing field where they're realizing that I'm not safe either. Just because I'm a white Christian, quote unquote, patriotic MAGA American, I am not safe. So it's kind of a similar dynamic in some type of way. So you have your MAGA holdouts here in the States, you have your MAGA holdouts here in Lebanon, but either way, they're turning into a very cringe and abhorrent, like fanatical group. They're no longer the norm, which is what we want to see, because there's always going to be people left over. It's just a question of like, we can't exaggerate their numbers. Because they will be given a microphone, they will be on TV, they will have a camera in their face, and then you think, oh my God, that's the world, that's the whole population. Same shit they do here.
It's just like the Iranian diaspora that went viral for doing the Trump dance. Thank you, Trump, for bombing Iran, and thank you for liberating us. There's a section of Lebanese people that are like, thank you, and thank you for ridding us of the Hezbollah problem. These people do exist in Lebanon. I try to use my show as like a way to like, look, I'm a Lebanese Christian dude. I like the resistance. We're not all crazy. So that's one of the things that we try to do over here.
There was yesterday a Lebanese Christian artist who's a playwright and a television and musician who released a video called Kiss My Behind, basically, in Arabic, making fun of Trump saying that MBS had to kiss his behind. And it had all the collaborationist class within Lebanon, the political and media personalities all like clapping to Trump, telling them to kiss his behind. And it had, in less than 24 hours, already, I think it's now over 2 million views on it. Okay, so you could imagine how the population in Lebanon, no matter what religious background they come from, I mean, you can't hide the sun, right? Like it's right in front of you, the killing of Lebanese people and the looting of their land and their resources, no matter what the sect is. It's right in front of us, the blocking of Christians from entering the churches in Jerusalem on Easter. It's right in front of us, the genocide of Christians in Syria at the hands of the collaborations regime, that if Hezbollah is not able to defend Lebanon, that's what's going to be ruling Lebanon, not these Christian fascist supremacists like of the Phalange and the Kataib. They will be the HDS kind that will be ruling Lebanon. That's if it's not swallowed up into Israel with the Greater Israel Project. So I think there's the same great awakening that we're seeing of this collective consciousness, human collective consciousness across the planet on a macro scale is happening on a micro scale in locations like Lebanon. And much of the new generation is impossible to fool into the propaganda of the West. And much of the older generation that was quiet out of fear, even just like the parents of Assad, who just left, there was always Maronites that were with the Palestinian Liberation Organization, with PLO, and with the SSNP at the beginnings of it. And then, of course, the fascists took over with the weapons coming from Israel and the Saudi and Gulf money. But they never, even those fascists never really represented the honest feelings of even the Maronite population. And now things are out in the open. And I think this collective consciousness that we're all working on cementing is going to be hard to break. You can't make people unlearn truth. You can't make them forget what they saw and what they lived. This is why, at the best case scenario for the West and the Zionists is that they need another 2 generations to get back to that point where they were before October 7th, and that is impossible to achieve at this moment of total collapse of imperial power.
And Alif, you mentioned something our last episode that we did about this, about the generational, the complete generational difference, just like we have here. That's what I'm realizing. The more I learn about Lebanon, the more I realize how similar the dynamics play out in both areas. So we all know about the disconnect of the boomer generation from reality because they are watching Fox News, CNN. They're stuck in the system. They still believe in the Republican and Democrats. They still believe that the president of the United States actually runs the United States. They have all these, they're loaded with mythology. And the same goes in Lebanon. You have a generational disconnect. You have young people who are watching, they're on social media. They're seeing the glory of the resistance. They're seeing the bravery, and it's inspiring them. And no matter what your religion is, whether you come from a Maronite community that's might be heavily steeped in pro-state propaganda or middle of the road type of sentiments. Well, Hezbollah's, maybe they're a little bit doing too much. Maybe they're too extreme. All that stuff. It's not working on the younger generation. So I just want to know if you can go into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's very evident when you go to social media that the only times you see propagandists working on the side of the imperialists and the Zionists in Lebanon, they are, born before 1970. Okay, very little of the younger generation we see as working in these propaganda schemes, and we've all lived this globalization era starting in the 90s, and a lot of people wanted to think that we can be all one. And then we're slapped around as they immigrated or tried to integrate when they moved to the West, and woke up to that realization. So, you know how a lot of times the children of immigrant communities decide to go back home because of this clash of integration? Well, it's the same thing about the children right now, this new generation of the people that try to sell out and ended up being told by Trump to kiss his behind live on television, right? So their children are refusing what the dichotomies that their parents agreed to, right? And so, look, the good thing about the time we live in is, on the one hand, that actions are so loud that they are drowning the voices of propaganda. You can't deny your own eyes, and the fact that we had partial democratization of information with the internet and social media, although it's heavily controlled with algorithms and so forth. But just the amount of people engagement, the tsunami of people posting about genocide in Gaza, the war here, and their emotions of anti-Zionism, it's impossible to control with an algorithm, and it's impossible to ban everybody at the same time. So there is a change, and there's no going back. The genie's out of the bottle, and they can't put it back in. And we just have to, as peoples all around the world, double our efforts right now. As the empire is on its back heel, as the Zionists are exposed and hated on a global scale, and we, inshallah, will be successful in liberating the region and liberating humanity from this imperialist trajectory.
Inshallah.
If I can just talk about the Shia perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
So as a Shia Muslim, American Muslim, also you're really seeing a sentiment change with regards to the perception of Shias within the Muslim community here in the US. Like, not only are Sunni Muslims, but white people are starting to, I don't know if you guys have seen this content. I wish I prepped some videos, but you've seen content from white people who are like, who is Ali? Who is Hussein, right? And now there's a curiosity about what are the ethos that drive this resistance? Where is this coming from? And whereas Shia people, even within our own community, were, treated as fanatics, treated as blood hungry, treated as being part of a death cult. Now people understand the ethos of resistance that drives that drives our resistance and where it comes from. And there's an openness now to Shias, whereas even before, even my own friends were uncurious about my Shiism. They knew I was Shia, but they didn't ask questions. They didn't it wasn't something they really got into. They had kind of a preconceived notion about what being Shia meant. But now you're seeing, non-Shia Muslims wearing the sword of Ali, and so I think it's really heartening for me here within the diaspora to see that curiosity and to see an interest of the ethos that drive resistance and where that's coming from. And really, I mean, the Muslim leaders of the world have exposed themselves in their hypocrisy as so-called stewards of our sacred sites. And as so-called spokespeople and representatives of the Islamic faith in general.
That's a great point. I really want to hone in on that point, that last point you made. Okay, we got to address this. The elephant in the room, the big ugly elephant in the room. The Saud family, the Saudi family. Okay, and this is where Americans are almost completely clueless and they have no idea of the history. Whenever we think of Islam or the gatekeepers of Islam, we think of Saudi Arabia. This is no coincidence. It's by design. And like to kind of like give everybody a 101, crash course. The Saudi family being put into power by the British was a strategic move to put the Saudi family in control of the holy sites, Mecca and Medina, and be the quote unquote gatekeepers of Islam. And in addition to that, they I guess revitalized the Wahhabism being the de facto representation of Islam, which was by design to give the West this very negative view of Islam, even though Wahhabism is a fringe cult. It's a fringe cult of violence and sadism that goes completely contrary to Islam itself. However, Americans are fucking dumb. We don't know these dynamics. We're not aware of these dynamics. We're not aware that ISIS adopts Wahhabism, and we're not aware that Wahhabism is a fringe cult to most Muslims. And we talking about Shia, who has been the main opposition to ISIS, to Al Qaeda, to the ideology of Wahhabism. It's been the Shia, it's been Iran, it's been Hezbollah. If it wasn't for Hezbollah, if it wasn't for Iran, and if it wasn't for the Shia in that region, that whole region would be looking like one big mass grave, because that means the Wahhabism would be running rampant. ISIS and Al Qaeda would be lining up civilians, men, women, and children, and chopping their heads off in a mass grave. And with the revelation of the Epstein files, what are we learning? What are we learning about ISIS and Al Qaeda? This is the big, great revelation that every American needs to ingrain in their head. It was orchestrated. It was empowered on Epstein's Island, the same island that they raped, tortured, and ate children. What does that tell you? So getting this message out to Americans is so vital. It's so vital because it will alter the worldview of Muslims, of true Islam, whether it be Sunni, whether it be Shia, but just it will hone in the gravitas of what Shia resistance means in the survival of that entire region and the survival of ourselves here in the West. There's my rampage on that, but I want to let Jedi talk about this. I
would like to chime in, Mark. Yeah, yes. There's been a recent uptick online on social media of a concerted effort to divide Islam from within, primarily using the Wahhabis as the contrast to do that division or to sow that division. And it's been happening in the West and in the East, and in West Asia or the Arab world, and here in the West. And it's really just a psyop that is funded by the petrodollars of the Saudi regime and the powers that be that support them, the empire, to sow division within Muslim communities, to discredit some Muslims, and create some kind of an animosity between them. And there's some examples I sent you, Mark, that maybe you could put the first one up of the gentleman on Santa Monica Pier completely discrediting Iranians as non-Muslims.
Yes, let me pull that up. Here it is. I believe this is it. Tell me if I'm wrong. Where is it at?
I think Laith said he
It's the
needed
second
to
one on
go,
the
by
list.
the way.
What'd you say?
I'm just gonna say one thing, and I'm gonna let you go, guys, because this is my fifth stream today, and my brain is starting to get to mush. But obviously, the Wahabi cult and the Saud family have been at the service of imperialism since the late 1800s, early 1900s. People can read about the spies that were sent by the British and the Americans to collaborate with the Saud cult family and the Wahhabi cult, to try to find a way to break up the Muslim solidarity. And what the Saud family did as they invaded Mecca and Medina in 1930 with the weapons of the British and the mass killings that they committed on their way between Riyadh and Mecca, similar to what ISIS did in Syria and Iraq, and the destruction of the graves of the Prophet's family and Prophet's companions, all the markers in Mecca and Medina, that how they destroyed the same in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and what have you. So this is an attempt to fabricate an imperialist version of Islam that has been ongoing for more than 100 years, as there was and until now succeeded attempt to fabricate a new Judaism, that is Zionism, and unfortunately they succeeded. There's practically no Jewish synagogues that are fighting against Zionism. Alhamdulillah, up until now there is Muslims, Shia, Sunni, and others that are fighting the attempt to make Wahhabism the official version of Islam and an imperialist tool. So that's my sense. Thank you all for having me. It's great to meet you all. Suha, Anthony, Aburahs, Mark, and Jedi. And victory to the resistance, victory to humanity against the Epstein class. See you soon, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you, Laith. Thank you so much for your fighting,
Stay
Laith.
safe, Laith. Please, Dakhilak, stay safe.
Thank you. I'll try. I'm trying my best. Although I wrote my will this week, by the way. But yallah.
It's okay.
Right.
You're going to stay in this fight, Laith. I appreciate you so much.
Stay
Thank you
safe,
for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
Yeah, great man right there.
It's a pity
Doing-
Laith left. I wanted him to comment on the recent sermon. It's a pity Laith has left us. I wanted him to comment on the sermon the Egyptian cleric gave in Al-Azhar Mosque in Cairo recently in front of the Egyptian president and top brass, which kind of projected unity in the Islamic community. And I wanted Laith to comment on that, but it's too bad he's already gone. So can you put that
Yeah, I
video
think
up,
it is
please,
important
perhaps,
for
Mark?
people to know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think it's important for people to know that like Shiism is not a fringe sect within the Islamic tradition. Like Shiism is, there are the Al-Azhar and the major, institutions of Islamic scholarship have always
The four
considered-
madhabs. Yeah.
Well, they've considered it 5. There's the 4 Sunni madhabs, and then the 12 are
Yes.
the Ithna Ashari madhab, which, if you study Islamic law, I won't get too much into it. Our schools of law developed in tandem with each other. And the scholars of the schools of the existing schools that we still have, many of them have died out, but the existing schools that we still have were colleagues and peers of one another. So I think it's important for people to understand that like this sermon that he gave is not like radical in any sense. And in fact, it's really a return to like an accepted, principle.
And to be clear, this is the video you're referring to is he's wearing the white
Yes.
hat, that one? And he's wearing a suit?
Let's play the first video on the list. Yeah, the
Let's-
first video on the list, please.
This one right here, right?
بحق
This one? Is this it? Can you all hear me?
See it yet.
I think it's the one because it says Masr.
Yes, it is. Yes, that's the one.
All right, let's play it.
رب بحق فاطمة وأبيها
Yes, that's the one.
وبعلها
Yes,
وبنيها وبالسر الكامن فيها لا تجعل لمصر حاجة عند لئيم من خلقك. ويا شعب مصر العظيم ويا جند مصر على الخصوص سيروا ولا تلتفتوا امتثلوا قول الحبيب صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم أن دفع الراية لأسد الله الغالب ليث المشارق والمغارب علي يوم خيبر قال له خذ الراية ولا تلتفت امضي يا علي ولا تلتفت صاغها أكابرنا في جملة بسيطة في المبنى لطيفة في المعنى ملتفت لا يصل ولا نلتفت أبدا يا شعب مصر أمام صناع هذا الشر فنحن في وادي العمران وهم في واد آخر كالطبل الأجوف يسمع صوته من بعيد وجوفه من الخيرات خالي كل عام وحضرتك يا زعيم أمتي بخير كل عام يا قائد نهضتنا وأنت في خير وعز ومجد وفخار كل عام وخير أجناد الأرض على العهود والوعود أسودا تزأر على الحدود كل عام ورجال أمننا في ستر وأمن وعافية كل عام وعلماء أمتي على القرآن يجتمعون وعلى حب سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم هم ماضون كل عام وشعب مصر في أمن الله وأمانه اللهم يا رب بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها وبالسر الكامن فيها لا تجعل لمصر حاجة عند لئيم من خلقك اللهم لا تجعل لمصر حاجة عند لئيم من خلقك واقض حاجاتنا وأنت بها أعلم فضلا منك يا كريم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وآله والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Okay, so Jedi, what is the significance of that sermon? What was powerful about it, and what broke precedent?
Well, I think I think what he's trying to do here is counter the upsurge in Shia hate that's been happening online by various influencers. And there's a few examples I've sent you already. There's one here of a gentleman on Santa Monica Pier who gives dawah on a weekly basis. And for years, I've been following him and watching him, and he's been just doing dawah, just a normal sort of missionary work, bringing people to Islam. But recently, he all of a sudden came out with some very absurd statement that Iranians are not Muslim. And I kind of feel like there's handlers that are kind of steering this person and telling him what to do at the right time, at the right moment. And now, since this war is happening in Iran, with Iran, it was the right time for him to make that kind of statement, bold statement that sows division. So maybe you could show that.
Yeah, I'm gonna play that video, and then I'm gonna
on the list.
Yeah, I'm gonna play that video, and then we're gonna get into the mechanics of these types of psychological operations to explain it better to the audience of what they're looking at.
And I searched up Wahabi.
Hold on, wrong one. My bad.
And you don't have to play the whole video. Maybe you can cut it off after the point has been made.
Yeah. Make sure I got the right one.
No, not that one. Not that one. But okay, you can play that one too. Go ahead.
No, not that one. No, I know. Hold on. I gotta label these better. Let me find it real quick. Bear with me.
Nope.
Okay, here it is.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. What's your name?
I don't want to introduce myself. Sorry, I'm raised by voice, but I've been in that culture 47 years.
I know, but Iran is not practicing Islam.
Weakness of the religious and Islam that they can take advantage of and using it, the name of the God and Islam, killing $20,000 in one night.
Remember, if Islam was violent, I would have killed you, brother. Look how big I am and look how small you are. But look, I'm being nice to you. Give me a hug, brother. Oh, I got you. I got you now. Yes, but they don't practice Islam. I'm telling you right now, they don't practice Islam.
What makes you say they're not practicing Islam?
You know how the same way there's churches that are corrupted? They're corrupted, my brother. They corrupted. They sold the religion for money and for power. And they hurt the Iranian people. But it has nothing to do with Islam, my brother.
It doesn't convince me.
No, I understand, but have you read the Quran? But the Quran says very clearly, if you hurt one person, you hurt the whole world.
You're right. But it's not like the way they are.
Islam.
You could cut it there, Mark.
All the Muslim countries.
Okay, so a lot of ironic statements he made there. Corruption. The Saudi family is not corrupt at all. They're mentioned in the Epstein files. They've been monopolizing the Islamic name. They're building hotels. Mecca might turn into a casino soon. So, let's talk about corruption. Let's talk about infidelity to Islam and the tenets of Islam. But what you're seeing there, Jedi, if you want to go into more about, I guess, what he's saying and why this is interesting time, like you already mentioned, why it's an interesting time that he's all of a sudden putting out this type of content.
Like I said, I mean, he's been giving dawah for years. I've been following him, and he's never brought up anything sectarian until just recently. And that raises a big alarm in my head, like why all of a sudden is he promoting sectarianism at this moment in time? And it just tells me he has a handler, and many of these people do, who propagate and push this and sow this division within Islam, trying to corrupt Islam from within. So that's what's been happening lately online, and I wanted hopefully this episode to sort of tackle that issue. We've gone a little bit off topic for the first hour. So maybe we can get into that now.
Yeah, no, I was saying this. I was saving this as the main entree because it's in depth. But what you're seeing, what this is called, it's called hijacker. It's called influencer hijacking. So influencer hijacking is when you have a popular figure, whether they be in a certain subject matter of society. You could be an environmentalist. You could be known to be a trustworthy figure when it comes to working class solidarity, strikes, workers strike, that kind of thing. And then because of your credibility that you've gained socially and online, you make a very convenient node to try to either create division or lead people off track. So influencer hijacking would be when the state or a corporate entity will come up to you and be like, hey, you're really popular. You've done really good at reaching people. People love you. We're going to need you to put out this messaging. Just make one little video that, that accomplishes an agenda for us. Here's some money. It's fine. All you gotta do is just one little video. This is we saw this happening, especially during the genocide, the main parts of the genocide, where we would see liberal creators who on a normal day would be standing against injustice, but out of nowhere, there's something for Israel and Zionist goals. This is a trade of values for money. And we're going to see this. And it's a lot more convenient to grab somebody who already has credibility, who's been building up their platform, than to train somebody to do it. See, that's the budget that they figured out. They realized that it's more expensive to raise a propagandist than it is to just hijack one. So there's some business calculations in there as well. So I want to hear Soha, Ramzi, your thoughts on what you might be saying come out of this on your ends.
Ramzi had a recent situation where the PNN logo was hijacked for that purpose.
Yeah, one of the PNN guys was putting out all this type stuff. I just told them, because at the end of the day, PNN, it's different people. Everybody's independent. I said, can you just clarify? Because everybody keeps coming to me, to other people. just clarify it's you the same way I do. You know, I speak up for trans, I speak up for this. People don't like it. Cool, that's how I feel. You feel different, feel free to. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I think it's always a combination of this intentional propaganda from higher powers, but it's playing into real things. Like America, you have black, white, different things. So it's a real, at the end of the day, it's like everywhere. Actually, black and white people get along in real life, go to anywhere in the real world. But there is this division you can play upon if you're a bad actor. So I would say with this, I grew up in America. My dad's Palestinian Christian. I don't have this intuitive Sunni Shia, you know, where I go around and say, oh, I'm Palestinian. Everybody shows me love, you know, so I don't really, but I mean, I see the stuff, but I think they play into this. So there's some people who are just, you know, being duped, and then there's the people stirring the pot. But yeah, I mean, it's very intentional. So at a time like this, I think, one, they're obviously pushing it. Two, though, it's a reaction. Iran is now the rock star. Everybody, all the demonization, even someone like me, I never was against Iran. I was for Iran, but you could say, like, not fully. To me, it's like now everybody's proved themselves. Hezbollah has shown you can't question their motives. They put themselves on. Bashar al-Assad proved, actually, although Syria was an integral part of the acts of resistance, he's not Sinwar Nasrallah. He's actually your standard dictator who just was maneuvering for his purposes. Iran has now proven themselves. So I feel I always stood with Iran, but my point is now some of these reactionary type Sunnis are feeling Iran is ascending, so they're lashing out extra hard. Like, it's almost like when someone's denying reality. So instead of accepting, wow, Iran proved themselves, they're doubling down on, no, this is just the biggest plan ever. Like, the 5D chess never ends with Iran. The whole country could sacrifice themselves for Palestine, and they'll say, no, this is just a plot for the next trick. So, but yeah, I mean, we have to, I think, I mean, you do have to address it, but we have to, the best thing is like this, just set
the sickening part.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. The sickening part is that you have some hardcore Wahabi fundamentalists who basically discredit Shia Muslims and even many Sunni Muslims, like Palestinians, as grave worshippers, and would prefer Zionism to succeed because they consider them Ahl al-Kitab, people of the book, and they consider these other Muslims like the Sunnis in Palestine and the Shia as heretics. That's how sick these people are.
And it's a minority. It's a fringe minority that's given a bigger camera and a bigger microphone. That's the thing. I want to bring up some more videos that you had sent me, G. Here we go.
And I searched up Wahabi, and I come across this email from Aziza Al-Ahmadi, or from Jeffrey Epstein. Well, it shows basically Jeffrey's understanding of how the Wahhabis operate. There's an excerpt from this I can read just really quick. It's like a paragraph. In the mid-18th century, the Saud embraced Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, a revivalist preacher who advocated a narrow reading of the Quran and Hadith and attacked any deviations from or accreditations to the original practice. People who deviated from the Wahhabi doctrine were excluded from Islam, and jihad was considered the only way to bring them back to the right path. So that's how Jeffrey Epstein understands Wahhabism to be. And it's very interesting that this aligns with everything that we've been saying.
Daniel's proved right again, huh?
And this shows we're seeing the effects of this right now in these psyops. Like, as you know, like the Wahhabism is you know, it's state sanctioned by, you know, the Saudi government, right? The Saudis are involved in the Epstein class. So we're seeing the collaboration that was done behind closed doors in the dark come out publicly and manifest itself in these division tactics, right? And in the rhetoric that we're seeing. So educating people on this is so important because we're essentially telling, you know, Muslims, whether they be Sunni or Shia, that this tactic comes from the most depraved individuals. If you even go near like validating these divisions, then you're directly aligning yourself with the most depraved Zionist that did the most depraved things to thousands of children on an island. So we have to make that, we have to make that comparison here, and we have to equate the two. I'm going to play this next video.
View Shia Muslims and how should Shia Muslims view Sunni Muslims?
Sophia, we should both Sunnis and Shias try to get over this historical difference and recognize that we have a lot more in common than these points of disagreement. We all subscribe to the same Quran. We all intend on following the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as the messenger of God by adopting his Sunnah. Sunnis understand his Sunnah through the traditional Hadith book, and Shias understand the Sunnah through the narratives that were transmitted through their great Imams. We all have the same 5 pillars of Islam: prayer, fasting, charity, performing the pilgrimage. There's a lot that we have in common. At the core, we are the same. These differences should not result in affecting our loyalties towards each other as fellow Muslims and brothers and sisters of the same faith.
And the same dynamic should be recognized and appreciated between Christians and Muslims. Like, I'm Christian, but I would say that Islam has had a greater impact on my faith than Christians ever had, because Muslims observe the commandments of Jesus more than Christians do. They center Jesus as far as the commandments he gave, whereas Christians kind of center Paul, or they center a Christian culturalism. It's just Christian decoration and cosmetics, wrapping itself around nationalism and imperialism. So all of these division tactics between Christians and Muslims is kind of mirrors the divisions between Sunni and Shia. The main difference between Christians and Muslims is simply the divinity of Jesus. That's it. Everything else, the commandments, how you live your life, how you live your everyday life, and how you treat people, loving thy neighbor, taking care of the poor, healing people, all that stuff is recognized as non-negotiable in Islam. Why? Because the Prophet Jesus said it is. So but that one minor difference between the divinity of Jesus, the disagreement, is exaggerated to a point where Christianity has been attached to Zionism, which is Judeo supremacy, that teaches that that Jesus is boiling in a vat of human excrement. So it's insane how the small differences have been expanded upon, and the huge differences between, say, Judeo supremacy in the most fringe parts of Judaism is somehow has any relation to Christianity. So anyways, just something I'd like to point out. I'm going to play another one that you had sent me real quick.
Yeah. I just want to say, go ahead, Mark, sorry. I just want to make a statement before I have to get going very soon. Yeah. I just want to say all these divide tactics that, empire is doing is basically because they're just absolutely terrified. They're absolutely terrified of West Asia, the Muslim world, the Arab world uniting. If you just look at the geography of the Arab world alone, just the geography, forget about the resources, forget about the culture, forget about the tourism and everything else. Just the geography alone could make it a superpower if it was united. All the major bottlenecks that exist within that region for trade and e-commerce and commerce would make that part of the world a superpower. And so this absolutely terrifies empire, and that's why they try so hard to sow division between Christian, Muslim, between Sunni, Shia, and between tribes and what have you. They find every means they can to divide us.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm gonna play this one video that you sent.
أنا قلت إن فيه طوائف في الشيعة بتسب وتلعن وتطعن، وكل من يقول بذلك فهو كافر ملعون. يا حبيبي احنا لنا الظاهر فقط لا غير. أنا ليا منك أنت الظاهر. أنا ما أعرفش أنت طالما إنك بتقول أنا مسلم وبتشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وبتؤمن بما أؤمن به، خلاص أنت مسلم عندي. ولو رأيت منك ما يخالف قولك أراجعك. واحد تاني بيقول لك اللي بيسب الصحابة، يا عم احنا انت جيت متأخر بس. أنا قلت إن فيه طوائف في الشيعة بتسب وتلعن وتطعن في أم المؤمنين الشريفة العفيفة الطاهرة، وبتلعن في الصحابة، دول ملعونين كفار وكل من يقول بذلك فهو كافر ملعون وهذه عقيدتنا التي نعتز بها لكن ليس كل الشيعة يقول ذلك الأكثرية الكبيرة جدا لا تقول بذلك وأنا راجعتهم وتكلمنا معاهم وعرضت لكم فيديوهاتهم هنا
Yeah. So you
He's
might
going
have to
into a very
condense that.
theological sort of explanation of. Yeah, I mean that was just a very theological sort of. Maybe Soha may have something to say about that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've been seeing, it's so interesting because I was in my second day of college on 9/11. And I went to an Islamic school where I was trained to be a speaker and to be able to speak to all different kinds of audiences and things like that. So despite the fact that I was Shia, that I'm Shia, the MSA, the Muslim Student Association, invited me to an event to speak. And when I began to condemn or like speak out against Osama bin Laden, they slipped me a note that said, "Don't talk about politics." You know, there is a segment within the Muslim community that just doesn't, you know, is not like aware of the actual historic roots of the tradition and buy into this kind of propaganda. We saw it, you know, after the Iraq war started that like the Western media tried so hard to sow divisions between what they called Sunnites and Shiites. They had all these like proposed, you know, scholars of Islam or whatever appearing on CNN and things like that. Whereas the Iraqi people were like, what? Like we all intermarry and like this isn't like a thing that is an issue for us. So, you know, I think to the point that you were making earlier, like it is a very small community that is very, very well funded. One of the things that we spoke about, Mark and Jedi, is that even Shia mosques, if you walk into a mosque and you open the Quran, where was it printed? Who did it come from? It came from Saudi Arabia because they are, you know, super well funded and they, you know, share their, you know, educational content. You know, obviously like some communities are more deciphering with what kind of material they're willing to accept than others. But, you know, Wahhabism is a global force that we are seeing begin to unravel along with the Zionist ideology.
And it's funny you were talking about the funding. That's one thing I want to get into about the funding of the mosque. I believe y'all told me that half the mosques in the U.S. are funded by Saudis. And I don't know if that statistic is true, but either way, it would play into the pattern that we see with synagogues and churches, the mega churches, the biggest churches. Who are they funded by? They're funded by Christian denominational, like I guess, what do you call them? Institutions, and that are heavily funded by, you know, by corporate interest and by Zionist. There's a relationship between mega churches and the Zionist entity. The same relationship that exists between the Saudis and the Israelis and behind closed doors. It's corporate interests that are financing and controlling the gates of religion itself and faith. And as a person who's always looked up to Muslims for, I guess, spiritual leadership and spiritual maturity, I've always looked up to Muslims that way since I was 18. And so, and I always saw, you know, Muslim institutions as being, I guess, outside of that paradigm of control of Western interest. And it was rather a shock to me when I learned that so many Muslim institutions are co-opted. And that was a real big disappointment to me, because it's like, I look up to you as a spiritual leadership in my life because I need it personally as a Christian who wants to follow the true path of the Masih, right? So where do I go as somebody who has nobody else to look up to? So I do see there to be a huge need to, I guess, educate everybody, educate Christians, educate Jews, that most synagogues are obviously co-opted by Zionism and Israeli interest and corporate interest. Same thing in Islam. Muslims need to be educated that, look, the gatekeepers of your religion currently right now work for the Epstein class. So, you know, anyways.
Yes. Warning to all. Sorry, I just want to say one more thing before I go. I have to go at 11. I'm sorry, I got something to do. But what I was going to say is a warning to the Muslim community here in the U.S. is be wary and be careful of which mosques you go to and what type of ideologies they try to brainwash you with. Like Mark said, many of these mosques throughout the United States, not all of them, but many of them are petrodollar Saudi-funded mosques that sow division, you know, that promote Shia hate and sectarianism. So to all the Muslim community out here in the U.S., be careful which mosques you go to, because not all of them project the truth of Islam, which is unity and forgiveness and tolerance and community, basically. But that's me. I have to go. I have a very important 11 a.m. Appointment. So, but thank you all for having me on this show.
Thank you, G. Thank you for setting this up. I appreciate you. And thank you for introducing me to Soha and all these wonderful individuals in front of you on this panel.
And shout out Radio Beirut.
My pleasure.
Shout out Radio. It's coming back. It's resurrecting it. We're resurrecting that. I promise you. I'm going to make that one of my goals.
Me too.
One of my bucket
Me
list
too.
goals.
Inshallah. Okay.
I have to actually run too. I have a sick 4-year-old who's parked in front of the TV right now. But I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be a part of this important discussion. I want to direct the audience to Give Butter. So it's the word give and then butter, butter.com/Nocella, NOCHELLA, where you can learn more about Nocella and get your tickets. The tickets are donation based until the day of the event, basically. So in which case, if you buy your tickets at the door, they're $25. It's a day-long decolonized gathering of music, poetry, solidarity, and connection to diaspora culture through the vendors who will be, you know, selling like different, you know, cultural products that link back to our identities and narratives, and diaspora food as well. So I'm very passionate about diaspora creatives and entrepreneurs because they are a connection to our identities. And if we don't protect them and buy from them, they will disappear. The other thing I want to shout out is if you're interested in putting your ear to the ground and learning a little bit about the experience of what life is like in Lebanon, and the ethos of resistance that inform the Lebanese people, I preach from the mountaintops that hip hop is the newspaper of the streets. So the Safe House Travel Diary, you can find at safehousepod.com, is an immersive journey told in narrative form through my perspective. It's a narrative journey through the world of Lebanese hip hop, which Jedi is a big part of because he was the founder of Radio Beirut, which hosted a weekly freestyle called Hip Hop Essentials, where the hip hop scene really was not born, but really developed and thrived. So check out Nocella, check out Safe House Travel Diary. I also have a piece that I just wrote about Nadir Khalil, whose music also exemplifies the ethos of resistance. And he's an Iranian-American diaspora artist, which was just published in Dazed Mina. So just had to call those things out, and I appreciate you all so much, but I got to get to my 4-year-old.
Go ahead. Go get back to your mommy duties. Thank you so much,
Thank
Soha.
you guys so much.
Thank you for being such a warrior in this fight.
You know, I'm just trying to, I follow the lead of my people. If they are not resting, we're not resting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, peace.
Peace out. So
How do I get out of here? I don't know how to get out of here.
Sorry, I just clicked the X. It's okay.
All right, take care.
Take care. the shout out to the women in this movement who have been such warriors. You know, I can say this behind their back, like they've really shown us men up, haven't they? You know, like
Absolutely.
I feel like it's really amazing. Like there's been, and it wasn't like some type of manufactured feminist thing. It's literally just the warrior spirit coming out in women, because women, they're natural warriors. They're killers. At the end of the day, they're killers.
Absolutely.
They're maternal killers. They stand up for the weak and the oppressed, because that's always been their role. And it wasn't until colonialism stripped that away from them through patriarchy and things like that. So, you know,
and Arab women, especially Lebanese women, like our government here is extremely broke, corrupt. It's not lifting a finger to help people. The most they've done is just open up public schools for people to go in. It's people that are volunteering on their ground, and there's a lot of badass women that have been doing all sorts of things, delivering aid, providing food, delivering blankets and beds. So like Lebanese civilians have taken matters into their own hands. Even as like August 4th, when there was the massive blast in Beirut, there was people that went in and cleaned up the city and like helped people rebuild their homes and stuff. So very badass women here in Lebanon.
I know. It's, you look at these marches and these protests, who is it at the front lines? Who is it getting up in the face of these fucking depraved Zionists? You know, it's women. You know, and it's so inspiring, you know, and it just naturally occurred that way. It was organic. It just happened. The leadership came out, you know. But though I appreciate y'all sticking with me here. The way forward right now, going forward, that's what I want to talk about. Ramzi, we're off the back foot and we're like charging forward. You know, we're on the aggression right now. I intend that momentum to stay and accelerate, you know, culturally speaking, you know, what like charging forward here in the United States, like the messaging, the aggression that we need to show. What's your game plan for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of an improviser, but I think what you're saying, it's like we need to be conscious about building bridges, I've been saying this for 20 years. I've been watching YouTube since 2006. You can't watch CNN, which at this point, nobody's watching CNN really, but it's like you have to be conscious, and it can be harder. Even something like Upscrolled, it takes some effort to try to get on Upscrolled when you're used to Instagram. You know, me, I got banned for the 100th time, so it kind of forces me. But whatever, even eating out, try to go to the local, you know, Lebanese, Jamaican spot, as opposed to I'm going to just go to Chick-fil-A. So if we can just try to build, I'm big on focusing on the small stuff to get the big stuff. But yes, but stay on the offensive, keep pushing, don't apologize. And at the end of the day, nobody can control outcomes. We can just push our hardest. And I always say a good gauge is what are they mad about? So if something's making them mad, just do more of that. You know, nobody has the full plan. As people say, what's that gonna help? You could do that with anything. What's that? You could say, oh, they shot a rocket. What's that gonna do? Nothing's gonna do anything in and of itself. We just have to not fall into those psyops. Be aware of the psyop, whether it's a CIA psyop or just a fool who's, you know, being his lower self. Just keep the pressure up, keep the momentum up. And like Suha, other people were saying, make sure we're in line with the resistance. Don't get caught up in our own bubbles. As I always say, people fight. None of us are doing anything to scold the next one. We're all talking. We're all holding up signs. Nobody's in a position to say, oh, this person, you know, I have my critiques of Code Pink, this, that, but I support everybody. I love everybody. So let's just strive to do more. And then, yeah, one step leads to the next. So this discussion will lead to the next. Keep it going. Keep it flowing. Love conquers all. We're team love, their team hate. So team love will win. Just keep pushing, everybody. Thank you, Mark, for your great work in putting this together, brother.
No, thank you. And I want to tell you something that I learned from Palestinians when I was 18 years old. They taught me this. And this is the one thing I took this with me around the world. Wherever situation I was in, this is one lesson, one of the lessons that they taught me, you know, young, impressionable, white Christian Zionist in the Zionist entity, you know, learning from Palestinian Muslims how to be a man. This is what they taught me. They always told me, or taught me this lesson: be the baddest motherfucker in the room full of enemies. When you're in a room full of enemies, be the baddest motherfucker in the room. But when you are in a room full of comrades and allies and the meek and the oppressed, be the meekest, be the most humble, be the most gracious person in the room, be the most soft-spoken person in the room. And I always try to take that with me whenever I'm in a room full of comrades, whether I disagree with them on one little point that they have or not. I got to pull back that aggression because they're not the enemy, you know? So you have to learn to gauge when you're going to be that bad motherfucker who's going to get up in the face of your enemy. Like, you got to bring out the fucking claws, no doubt, and you unapologetically. But when you're in that room full of allies and full of comrades, tone it back. There's no need to be aggressive. There's no need to be on that warpath because you're on the same team. It's just you might disagree on a few different points. So one lesson I always learn from them, and I saw their behavior. I saw how when they needed to step up, they pulled out. They pulled out the swords. But when they were in a room full of women or children or comrades or allies or maybe ignorant people like myself at that time, they toned it back. They like, be gracious, you know. It's just part of humanity. You don't always have to be on the warpath with every single person, and you can get caught up in that when you're involved in activism, when you're fighting these evil entities that we're talking about, you know. So Anthony, that region where you are living at right now, like I said, it's seeing some unprecedented solidarity. It's seeing some unprecedented gains. Like, we are seeing the fragility of this paper tiger that has relied on its technical savvy, on its development, on billions of dollars of taxpayer money, U.S. taxpayer money. But we're seeing the cracks, aren't we? We're seeing the cracks in the armor. But it can't stop there. What's like, and I want you to just be as, I guess, speculative as possible. I don't care. Like, let's talk speculation for a second. Where could this possibly go? Like, the IDF is about to collapse. It's on the verge of collapsing. People in Lebanon they're fired up. They're inspired by the resistance there. Where can this go to the next step? To end this to put a bullet in this beast's head.
I mean, the IDF is overwhelmed. They're currently handling like 5 wars at once. They're stretched thin. They've got people in Iran. They're dealing with it. They're still committing a genocide in Gaza. They're increasing their activities in the West Bank. They're on the border here. So they are spread thin. Morale is historically low. So we've got to pounce. Look, it's a multifaceted approach, kind of like what Ramzi was saying. We have to, every Lebanese person has to change their habits. First of all, we have to decolonize our minds. I used to consume a lot of movies, a lot of American media. Over the last 3 years, it's been a massive struggle for myself to kind of change what I consume in terms of everything: books, media, film. A lot of the people that I used to look up to, a lot of the artists, a lot of the creators that I looked up to as a kid are piece of shit Zionists. I used to be a massive Quentin Tarantino fan, for example. He lives in Tel Aviv. He went and gave the IDF a pep talk before they went out and massacred Palestinians. So there's been a conscious effort to be very mindful of what I consume in terms of media and in terms of the products that we encourage as well. Also, there was a very nice tweet that I kind of saw. So I wish I could attribute the tweet to someone that was saying, "Hey, like, Americans, why don't you like go and storm your capital? We're out here fighting your wars for you. You have Lebanese people. The Lebanese resistance is fighting Trump essentially, and is fighting Netanyahu, and is dealing with things that maybe other people that kind of have more of an ability to deal with those more directly. And we're fighting those battles on your behalf. We're having to fight like leaders that these people have elected, and we're having to fight those, and we're the ones paying the price. Ideally, what would happen here, which is not going to happen, I would love for the Lebanese military to be able to intervene. I would love the Lebanese government to give the military the go-ahead to hop in the fight, to hop in the battle, and defend the Lebanese border, and not just leave it up to Hezbollah. But they're not going to do that because the Lebanese government is completely aligned with the U.S. and Israeli government. They're terrified of them. They're terrified that if the Lebanese military shoots one shot, fires one bullet towards an Israeli, that is going to give Israel carte blanche to basically nuke the whole country, essentially. So they think that if we just stay out of it, if we keep withdrawing the military from all these villages and we let the Israelis take them over, maybe they'll calm down long enough to like leave and then just give us the land back. But they're not willing to fight because they think that if they fight, then Lebanon is going to turn into southern Lebanon. So I'm honestly like, for me being here right now, it's kind of hard to see any positive because it seems like this is going to be such an extended thing and it's having real life impact on just people's businesses, people's work. It's just very hard to keep morale up. Sort of almost every single person I know, myself included, we've been affected professionally. I work in the TV industry, for example. No one's filming, like, there are no projects being done. Whatever projects were being done are now on hold. And also like you have like places like Dubai and those countries that are now sort of hubs for media. Those places are inaccessible. And also, I mean, for good reason. You sign a deal with the devil, you make a deal with Israel and the United States. I'm kind of happy that some of those countries are getting a taste of a lot of what they have facilitated to happen to other Middle Eastern countries. Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, Bahrain, sitting on the sidelines and allowing what happened in Palestine. Dubai normalizing relations with Israel. So those countries have had it coming for a while as well. Not that I want any innocent people to be harmed or anything like that, but like they're kind of paying the price for a lot of the things that they've been doing and the divisiveness that they've helped foster over the last few years. I don't know what's going to happen here. I just want to see the Israeli military defeated, and I want them to never consider coming back into Lebanon, because the problem is we deal with this every couple of years. We do this song and dance every 2 years, every 3 years, every 5 years. There's some light skirmishes between Hezbollah and the Israeli military, and then they'll do an invasion, and then they'll leave, and then they do it again in a couple of years. They'll ask the Lebanese government, hey, you guys need to disarm Hezbollah. The Lebanese government is obviously incapable of disarming Hezbollah, so they claim that it's now their responsibility to disarm Hezbollah. And we just basically keep doing the same thing over and over again. As long as the Lebanese government does not embrace and does not understand the importance of the resistance, but also Hezbollah is a bit controversial in Lebanon because they're also a political party. They're not just a resistance. They're a massive part of Lebanese politics. There's a huge faction of the Lebanese population that does not like Hezbollah's more political wing. They'll support the resistance wing, but like they might have different opinions on the political wing. I genuinely don't know. Right now, everything looks pretty bleak, to be honest with you, because we know that even if there's a ceasefire achieved in Iran tomorrow, operations in Lebanon seem to be continuing, even though Iran has said that one of their conditions for a ceasefire would be to cease any hostilities in Lebanon, which Netanyahu says that he refuses to do. That means, is there ever going to be a ceasefire? I have no idea. I don't think I've answered your question at all. I've just been pretty negative about it.
Well, I don't blame you for not answering it directly, because like you said, it is hard to see any optimism coming out of this given what the conditions you're in right now. However, I'd like to add that, yeah, I'm not, my goal or what I want to see in my head is not a ceasefire. It's a collapse. I want them to get so arrogant that they make the worst mistakes so that it's irreversible collapse within Israeli society. We are seeing that happen, but see, Israelis are so isolated from the reality of what's happening in their own borders that it's getting more and more expensive and complicated for the Israeli government to hide their own losses. See, I know more about what's happening inside the Zionist borders than Israelis do.
Yeah.
And so, but how long can you keep that up? How long can you keep up the facade? Oh, we're winning. The Greater Israel project is succeeding. It's not. It's in fact, it's the opposite. The Greater Palestinian project is about to unleash. And that's the reality that's actually happening. So I just view this as they're buying themselves time. I want to see a full collapse. I want to see Israelis panicking, and I've seen videos of them getting on ships, leaving to other countries. They're going to Thailand. They're going to Argentina now. They're already preparing their colonies across the world. And my suggestion is just like I think Germany needs to take them all in. That's my opinion. I think Germany. Hey, look, Germany, you supported Israel throughout all this. You need to prepare a nice welcome party for all those Israelis. Get it ready. Get the airports ready. Get your streamers out. Give them some new houses, whatever. You take them in. You love them so much. You created this bullshit, decades ago. you take them. And I don't think that's far beyond the realm of possibility. I think it may seem like fantasy, but we're seeing the collapse. And I think that the opposite is kind of fantasy. The opposite, the notion that Israel is holding on and they're going to push their way up and more north into Lebanon. That's so delusional, but it's holding up until now. And I just want that. I want that illusion to just crack. And once it cracks, we know how cowards behave. When cowards feel like they're losing, they go on the run, and it's irreversible. You know, we see that.
It is cracking. Like, look, they're doing a lot of damage on the ground. You know what I mean? Like they've pulverized Gaza. They're currently pulverizing countless towns in southern Lebanon. But like the damage that they've caused themselves globally from like a PR perspective is irreversible. You have literally applications like TikTok that have had to ban the word Zionist. You can't even write the word Zionist in a DM to someone. It was acquired by Larry Ellison, the granddaddy of like Zionist media. You have Twitch banning, also being very touchy over the word Zionist, and being like with streamers like Hassan Piker, banning him every other day, while streamers like Asmund Gold get to say that Palestinians deserve to be genocided. So social media sites are also taking the unprecedented steps to censor talk, because they've lost control of the narrative. Young people aren't fucking with Israel in any way, shape, or form. Even people that are on complete opposite sides of the political spectrum, people like Nick Fuentes, now have some overlap with people like me. Like, why is Israel bombing Iran? Why is Israel starting wars with Lebanon, etc.? So they've definitely lost the younger generation. And when you lose the and in America as well, which is so far still probably the most influential country in the world. So I don't know what they do to recover. I don't think they can recover from that.
They can't. They just need a plan B. That's all they can do. That's all that's the best they can hope for, is a plan B. And that's what I want to push in my messaging. It's like, yo, you better start making your plan B. Go to Germany. But to kind of like tack on to I guess on a positive notes. And I'm going to play two more videos. One's comical, just to put some levity in the situation. But this was a video talking about Baalbek, the people of Baalbek. Let's watch this.
Some fights are not worth having. So for those who are not familiar with the operation that took place in Nebishit, a town outside of Baalbek in the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, Israel entered the town dressed up in Lebanese military uniform, as well as with ambulances. And upon entering the town, they were quickly identified. And listen, some of the reports came out that a woman, the age 50, pulled out her Kalashnikov and started spraying. This is the type of people they're messing with when they're dealing with Baalbek and the surrounding towns. So then obviously she was targeted, and eventually her sons picked her up. They were taken to the hospital, and then the whole car was bombed. And there was around 40 martyrs that day from the town's residents. And 3 days later, the Israelis came back into the town, and then a helicopter was also downed. Israel needs to understand, Baalbekis and people in that area are not worth trying to occupy. They will make their life hell. Even amongst themselves, they fight amongst themselves. What do you think they're going to do to you? Being from Lebanon, I'm familiar with the mentality most of us share in the Bekaa Valley. And just to share one story, there's a town called Erbil, and they invited ISIS back during the Syrian civil war. So the Lebanese army entered Erbil, and one of the soldiers killed by ISIS in that raid was from Baalbek. He's Baalbeki. And so the father of that child took it as his personal mission to avenge the killing of his son. And who did he blame? Well, he blamed the mayor of Erbil. So what he did is he went into Erbil with his family and his tribe. They kidnapped the son of the mayor of Erbil. They decapitated him. And then he took the head of the mayor's son to the grave of his own son and threw that head onto the grave of his son and said, "This is my gift to you." And since then, the man is not been captured by the law, and he's protected by his tribe. This is the kind of people the Israeli army is dealing with when entering Baalbek and Lebanon. We are not the type of people to be occupied. So it's best they back off.
And this goes in line with the Black Panther messaging, which we are trying to push heavily right now. Community resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Huey P. Newton's theory on intercommunalism. He posited that we no longer live in a world full of nations or countries. It's not possible anymore. If an entity like Israel can just bomb your village with impunity, if the United States can invade a country with impunity, or dictate how your local economy is ran, or what corporations can operate there, then you're not living in a nation. You're living in an occupied community that can be touched at any moment, at any time. So what that tells us is that the only way forward is if all of us see ourselves as interconnected communities that are occupied by the ruling class. It's simple as that. None of us live in a country. The United States is not a nation. Mexico is not a nation. None of these places are nations, because if the U.S. can do whatever it wants and its ruling class can do whatever it wants to those nations, then it's not a nation. And so U.S. citizens, we don't have sovereignty anymore. Big corporations are swallowing up our land. They're controlling our food supply. They're controlling our energy supply. They're controlling our technologies. So we don't have any sovereignty anymore. So we need to start seeing ourselves as in the same predicament that people in Lebanon are. They're losing their sovereignty as well. And the only way we're going to get that back is if we start connecting and seeing ourselves as one organism and community resistance. And that's going to require every community member to start seeing resistance as against this, pedophile beast, as being the only way that we're going to reverse the damage that's been done to our lives and the trauma that we've experienced. So I'm going to leave it off on that note. So go check out u8.net to see what the Four Winds plan is. And that is the plan that we are positing to the entire world. The Black Panther Party is trying to get every community, including Lebanon, to push this plan in their communities, adapt it to match the culture and match the traditions, match your particular circumstance in your community, and create a version of it. And we're opening up a branch of the People's Court in Lebanon as we speak. We're building out that branch. So anybody who's in Lebanon who wants to be a part of the People's Court, send us an email. We're going to connect you with the people so we can start building that out, and start connecting the resistance in Lebanon with the patriotic resistance here in the United States. If that makes sense. I'm going to leave this off on a comical note, though. There we go.
From Lebanon. No way, we're neighbors. I'm right next to you. Are you from Syria? No, not next to you, under you. Jordan? No, that's too far. Closer, closer. Palestine? Hey, أهلا وسهلا, man. Nice to meet you. شرفنا.
You're not from Palestine, only Israel. There's no P in Arabic, so where are you from? Where are you from? Only Israel. You love Israel? שניכם נראים כמו חמאס. You look like Hamas. You love Hamas? You love Hamas?
Do you hear something?
You love Hamas?
Yeah, I think it's a dog. No,
love
dogs are
Hamas?
usually cute, so you're right. This one isn't.
Hamas?
Let's go get some food.
Yeah, حبيبي يلا.
Sorry, had to throw that in there. I don't know if y'all seen that one yet.
First time.
Awesome. I appreciate you, comrades. Thanks for coming on and diving into this in a deep way. I really wanted to expand out on this topic, and you guys really helped me do that. So thank you. There's a lot more to be said, a lot more rhetoric to be had on this topic, but I think we covered a lot of bases here, So thank you. Thank you for being in this fight.
Thanks for having us. Great discussion. Great to me. I just followed you on Twitter, Anthony. I don't know if you're active. They've banned me from Instagram for now. But great to meet everybody, and let's keep it going. And I was going to say, it always seems impossible until it's done. So there's no clear vision, but keep pushing. Something always gives. So we'll, hopefully in 5-10 years, we can look back and see where it all led to. But thank you, everybody. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Mark, for having us on as well. Ramzi, I'm going to follow you right back on Twitter. I am pretty active over there, so hell yeah. Thank you so much, Mark. Also, big fan of Colonial, Outcasts, big fan of all the work that you guys have been doing, so appreciate you. And also, at the beginning of the show, someone described everyone as activists and revolutionaries. I just wanted to say, I've never even thought of myself as an activist or a revolutionary. I feel like I'm just doing what, I know a lot of the people on this panel.
Too late.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to do like whatever I can to help. But like, yeah, sure. I'm in great company, so very happy with that. And the Panther Initiative sounds very badass, Mark. So I'd love to reach out to you and I'll talk more about that at some point.
The Panther Party and the Black Panther Party stand strong with Lebanon and their resistance. They stand strong with Iran. They stand strong with Palestine, and they stand strong with Africa. We are going to succeed. It's going to be bloody, but there's going to be a birth of a new world, and we will be calling the shots. I guarantee you that. I promise you that. I promise you that Lebanon will succeed. I promise you that Palestine will succeed. The question is, what's that going to look like? I don't know, but we're going to figure out that vision together as we explore this more. I love you all so much. I appreciate your resistance. I appreciate you being the voice for the oppressed and these men and women who are getting bombed in southern Lebanon. Their memory will not be in vain. Their resistance is not going to be in vain. I can promise you that from this side of the pond. So love you, fam. As everybody comes to, gets the shock and awe of the news coming out in the next few weeks, stay focused. Stay focused on revolution. It is coming. All power to the people.
Peace. Later, guys.